Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Spencer TCG here. Sorry if you guys are one of my Star Wars watchers. Today is a Union Arena video, and this is going to be a deck list specifically targeting Demon Slayer rare battles. Before we talk about the deck, I want you guys to understand that, these rare battles are very small formats. Like the card pool, right, is very small. You know exactly the cards that you're going to be up against. It's not going to be as mysterious. So, with that knowledge, you can tech your deck very specifically to beat those around you. So if everyone's going to be bringing like the classic Tanjiro Nezuko deck, then that, having more active triggers, having null impact, those things are going to save you. So here is my deck to target just the thing. So far I've played in 3 rare battles for Demon Slayer, and I won 2 of them and came in second and the third. And the one I came in second in, my opponent hit 4 specials, some of them being in life, and they drew all 4 of this Tanjiro down here. And it still came to a coin flip where my second to last life, if that was an active or a special, which was about a little bit over half the deck, like 60-40, I still win the matchup. So that's how good this deck is into the mirror. But let's go into it. Let's talk about the zeros. So we're playing Mitsuri, Tanjiro, and Obanai. I really like Mitsuri. First off, she's a Hashira name, and we need a couple of those for our double blocker. But in the late game, we can pay 1 and make her a 4K and threaten, our opponent's cards off the field, which is really nice. She sadly is actually the only card in our deck that does not have a trigger. If you look at the entire deck, everything else has a relevant trigger. We're not playing any finals, so there's only 3 misses out of the 50 cards in our deck that won't have a trigger effect of some sort, which is super cool. Another thing that's missing here is the Nezuko Zero. She also doesn't have a trigger, so it's really either between her and Mitsuri for me, and I decided that I'd rather have the Hashira names than more Nezuko copies. I'm playing 8 little Nezukos and 8 little Tanjiros, and I think that's enough raid targets for me personally. All right, we're going to go into the 1-drop Nezuko. This card's actually super strong at pushing in early damage because you can play her, to your energy line, and then you can play something tapped up front and then switch it so she can still be used to make the energy for that turn. But she can come in for an extra swing, which is relevant because this deck does want to chip away your opponent. If you notice, we're playing a lot of small guys, but we still have a nice top end, very similar to, Renji Rush, where we're playing, I think Renji Rush plays like 16 4Ks. We're at 15. For a while, I did have a 4th Nezuko 3-drop in and only 2 Mitsuris, and I had only 10 zeros. I thought that my hands were a little less consistent at finding what I wanted. But if you guys are a little bit riskier, you could make that switch to yourself. All right, and now if you go into the rest of the deck, you'll just look at the bottom line, and it's either going to really say raid or active. So, we look at this Nezuko, and she has an active trigger. Does she have text? Sure. Have I used her text yet? I don't think so. There was a couple turns where I was like, oh, I have 2 of them, and I was like, oh, I can reduce all the 4Ks. But, she's just a Nezuko, and she has an active trigger. That's why we're playing her. We look at this guy. Sure, he has a draw 1 discard effect. He's a Hashira, but he also has an active trigger. We look at this Tanjiro, the one that we're playing, has an active trigger. Nice. And then again, we're playing the Tanjiro Nezuko combo, so this deck can definitely still do it. And I think it's okay cutting one of the Nezukos because they're, recurable with the Tanjiro. And this Nezuko doesn't really feel good if you don't have the Tanjiro anyway. So I'm losing a little bit of drawing, them both. But I think that's okay because the Tanjiro is the real MVP. This guy, you can chump early with a Nezuko and then just bring it right back. So you're saving a lot of life again early on. And then this guy just has permanent impact. And, while they say, Nezuko and the Tanjiro, the good thing is getting those 5 swings in, the real benefit is that you're protecting your impact Tanjiro from any removal. And then every turn, you're just threatening this impact. And unless they hit a special out of life, they can't stop that impact, which is, again, why impact negate's really good. So if you guys really like your Tanjiro Nezuko deck, some considerations I would think about playing Giyu instead of the other Tanjiro, and I'd play the 0-drop with null impact somewhere in your list, probably 4. That way you have 8 null impacts for this Tanjiro, right? Be specific when you're building your decks for Rare Battle. Do not bring the same thing that you bring to weeklies. These are not the same. And then Inosuke is our only double energy guy. It's okay that we're missing, I usually like having a few more just because it helps with the energy line. But, this deck, it's definitely okay because the Tanjiro brings back a Nezuko. I think that helps with the energy. And also nothing costs more than 4. And this guy has an active trigger. So, you know, he's a 3-drop 3K with an active trigger, 2 energy is everything we want. And then, you know, we already kind of talked about the Giyu. He's super cool. Even outside of rare battles right now into like the green One Punch Man, I think this card can be a lifesaver if you guys are, you know, struggling against that deck and play Demon Slayer. But yeah, this guy has null impact. So a lot of times in the game, I know it feels bad to get rid of a 4K, but you just block Tanjiro, save a life, you know, especially if you have more 4Ks waiting in your energy line, which I do a lot, or, you know, you're going to raid one out. It's totally fine to give up a 4K, guys, to save a life, because that's really what it comes down to, how much life you have at the end when your opponent is going for lethal. Yeah, and then, you know, the MVP of the deck is Rengoku. He has double block as long as you got 3 Hashiras, which is why it's important to have these 0 drops in here to try to get to 3. You know, sometimes you don't have 3, which is fine. He's still a 4K, you know, guy with an active trigger. But whenever he does have double block, it just becomes disgusting because there are 24 active triggers in this deck. So about half your deck in life is going to be an active trigger. So that's just going to make him a 7K double block, and that's pretty disgusting. Sometimes he'll even block 3 times, you know, if you block a small guy, hit an active trigger, and then block 2 more times. Like, that is pretty gross. And then we are playing the Tanjiro special, which is totally fine. There are 12 Tanjiros in this deck, so this is why we're going with here. The Hashira deck, you know, it needs 3 on board. I think that's a lot less likely than drawing 1 copy of Tanjiro. You'll probably always have 1 on your field somewhere, so this special, you never really seemed dead in my hand anyway. And then there we go, guys. Went through that deck pretty quickly, but the idea is we're super defensive. We hit a ton of active triggers. We're playing a lot of 4Ks. We have impact. We have a special. You know, the one thing I think we're missing is the color trigger. I don't think either of them are worth it in this list personally. But yeah, you guys play around in your rare battles. I think like the real, you know, point of this video is to say that, like, you know, this is not a weekly. This is not a deck that you see on a tier list, though I wonder how it does perform in weeklies, but, you know, because it's so defensive. But, you know, this is specifically targeting rare battles. I know what I'm going to be playing against. I know that the red deck is really aggressive, so active triggers are going to help. I know that the Tanjiro Nezuko deck swings a bunch of times and has impact, so this deck is going to help, right? It's very defensive. And I know that no one really plays Muzan. And, you know, if a Muzan did play against this deck, they'd probably have maybe a favorable matchup. But, like, I'm not really seeing any Muzans. People are trying to win, and the Muzan deck struggles pretty hard into Tanjiro Nezuko. So that it's just not, like, a safe deck really to bring. And this deck probably might, you know, squeak ahead of Muzan anyway, just because of its a little weaker power level. And we still have the Tanjiro Nezuko combo anyway. But, you know, so, you know, when you guys are building your rare battle decks, and, you know, especially for One Punch Man, think about what people are bringing. Think about how you can attack the meta. You know, like, you know exactly the type of decks everyone's bringing. So look at the cards, you know, reevaluate some ones that, you know, you maybe got, you know, I don't like that card in general in the, you know, weeklies, but this is not a weekly. And yeah, guys, this is my first Union Arena video on the channel. I've actually uploaded... I've like recorded some videos. I do 2-deck tournaments at my locals every month, so I have some video gameplay of that. If you guys think that'd be interesting for you guys to see, just let me know and I can upload those. Otherwise, if you guys were here for Star Wars and just stuck around and watched this, yeah, this game's really fun. Highly recommend. It's just a good time. The games are fast, and yeah, you get to play some cool characters from anime. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, peace.